show on the corner. This time we are recapping episode 5, A Strange Case. And man, I just got to say, this one, they came back hard with this one. I was a little, I would say last episode, not that I didn't like it. I would just say if I had to rank them, it was like at the bottom. I was like, it was, some stuff in there. Boy, this one.
So I was thinking about that. Like, so far, to me, they are hitting on the odd episodes. Even episodes have been the two that are just like, well, that was good. Not as good as episode 1 or episode 3.
Right.
Yeah, episode 5, I guess they need a break between incredible, crazy, mind-blowing stuff. So
look, and so, I mean, we'll just jump into it, right? I mean, they just totally. I think what I love about this show too is they set stuff up, and then they don't leave it lingering out there for very long. Yeah. They're just like, "Oh, we're gonna drop this little hint, and in about an episode, we gonna let you know." Like, yeah. Right. So we know Montrose is gay. All right, so we figured that part out.
Yeah.
That was It made sense to me. Like, it just kind of wrapped up to me a lot of the stuff that was going on with him, why he was the way he was. To me, it says a lot about his relationship with his brother and his father, and like just all this internal, stuff that he's got going on.
And it seems like Montrose finally knows that Montrose is gay.
Right.
Like, yes. I think there was some serious self-hatred there, and then it feels like he finally embraced it, and that's why,
Well, I loved how this episode, like all of the locust stuff, like everybody was transforming.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that link, even though there were several storylines.
Right. That is so key to pick up on. Like, it was one of those things that I had noticed and I'd forgotten about. So thank you for bringing that up, because like in the very opening scene, right, when Ruby was transforming back, it was that whole, like their capability to bring in like audio and visuals and what's actually going on is incredible. So you get this scene of, this guy talking about locusts on the TV, and the background, William is just going away.
Let me tell you why I picked up on it so clearly. Because I watched that whole scene like this. My ears were picking up on all the stuff. And I was like, I can't watch it, but they talking about a logo.
Yeah, it was definitely, so I've watched it. I've really only watched it like once, like all the way through. And then I went back to like certain scenes that I wanted to see again, and I've watched those again. But it was definitely very powerful is the word that keeps coming to me, like with this episode. Like some of the acting scenes, like the first, Ruby, the lady that transforms into Ruby. Hold on, we have to say hi to one of our watchers. Hello, Rhonda. Rhonda's back.
Hey, Rhonda.
So that actress, like that whole scene of her doing the transformation, like the pain, and it just really hit me. I think especially how they shot it, because a lot of times it was soloed on her, like real up and close. So as an actress, like she's got to, nothing's really happening to her, but she's got to sell this. And I'm trying to tell you, like every time somebody transformed, like I felt it. I was like,
yes. I was like,
oh. And the sound effects with the crackling sounds, and it's just, I was like, yo,
the one time that when she gets hired as the assistant manager, and she's got to get out of there, and she left the vial of the stuff.
I was scared.
And she's outside in the alley, and the last shot is of her head doing a oh, what good that it just cuts, and that's it,
Yeah.
That was visceral.
Definitely some amazing acting for all those characters. I want to, and so this, to me, when it started, it planted the whole seed. I had been, how much of a nerd I am. So obviously, I'm on the Twitters on hashtag Lovecraft Country. I'm looking at all the other different people talking about it. And so one of the things that we didn't bring up, because I didn't really see it, and we never really talked about it, the whole Christina and William thing, right? So that had been floating out there that, hey, they're the same person, things of that nature. And so I kind of had that in my head as I was watching the episode. So as soon as it opened up with this whole transformation thing with Ruby and the butterflies, like, to me, that kind of sealed it. I was like, okay, they're the same person. Like, and because they were going out of their way to show so many transformations and like kind of really like explaining this process, that's when it kind of hit to me. This is okay. So
speaking of that whole deal, like, I'm not paying attention to all of everybody else is doing recaps and stuff. And so it was cool to just organically, because that's kind of when we watch TV together, I'm that guy. Right. I'm like, oh, they the same person. Like 2 scenes before, he's like, what? He didn't even pick up what I was saying.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
as soon as Christina came out of that locked room, she's like, she's William. And I'm like, no, I don't know. I don't know.
Then I'm like, now we got to go back and watch every freaking episode again to see when they weren't in the same room at the same time and we didn't notice it.
Well, it immediately took me back to the scene in episode 2 when they talk to Christina about William and they say something to the effect of, "Who is he? Your boyfriend?" And I don't remember her exact answer, but it was very coy. It was very non-committal. It was very much like, he's close to me sometimes. Like that whole thing. And it's like, oh, that's what she was.
And I kept thinking about this, and I went back and I should have gone back and watched the other episode, but I didn't. But the woman that Ruby turns into, wasn't that the sheriff from the town?
The woman? What?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Am I doing the white people all looking like thing?
You might be doing the white people.
No, but listen, while we're on her though, you want to talk about believing actresses? Like that actress, I feel like she studied Ruby. And because she was getting it. She would get into her, I'm in a white woman's body, but I'm really what girl had that girl.
Okay, so Rhonda is saying yes. So
I gotta dig in.
I think they may be, but so, and the reason why, so if it is, the reason why I felt like that was important, because I'm like, okay, so why her? As Rhonda's putting it, I was going to ask why did they use her as Ruby? Like, why her? And is there this connection of like, does the person have to be dead in order for you to transform into it? Then it starts asking questions about, well, then who really is William? And is the story that Christina tells about William, is that really true? Because remember when she's telling Ruby, trying to convince Ruby to go and plant this little thing in the guy's room, explains this whole story about William and this was his birthright or whatever, taken from him and stuff like that or whatever. So that part to me was very interesting because I was just like, okay, why this woman and why that? So
you know what just popped into my head? Write a note, somebody. You just said you have to be dead to then transform into, like, right? That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Who else do we know that's a main character who's died and been brought back? Letty.
Ooh.
Let's just hang on to it. We don't know. I don't know.
Oh. No.
That's interesting.
Oh my God.
Is Letty still Letty, or is she?
No, I don't think she's like. I'm just saying.
Okay.
If that's
well, so here's the thing. Here's where I'm going to take Jeremy's "Is Letty Still Letty?" because there was two distinct parts where she was like the haunted house episode. I forgot what it was called, but when they were sitting at the table and she was like, "I died."
Holy Ghost.
Like, and I haven't, and like the fact that she hadn't dealt with that or really talked about that, and then she brought it up again in this past episode. I can't remember what she said, but it's like she keeps hinting at the fact that, like, can we address the fact that I died and came back? Like, we're just kind of glossing it. So she keeps bringing that up, like, hey, it's important to me that I died and I came back. Like, well, so I don't know. There could be something there.
I wonder if it has something to do with, because Ronna mentioned Uncle George, Courtney B. Vance's character.
Right.
But, like, does it have to do with them like Christina having access to the person's body.
That could be true too.
You know, and I'm sitting here really mad that neither one of us. Erica, she's also that guy that can see somebody in one scene in one show 10
so
years
she
ago.
was?
She's that is verified by Rhonda, the dog keeper from episode 2, talking about the black bears and
so that is her. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely same actress, both roles. And
so I thought that was interesting that it was her that she turned into.
Yeah.
So I do have to talk about the scene where
Rhonda, by the way.
where she changes, and so she goes out and she walks. She walks through the city, goes to get ice cream, all this stuff or whatever. I'm gonna be real, like that was a triggering scene for me because it was like I felt this pain of like. So here's this woman like experiencing like what to her seems like extraordinary. Like I can walk through, I'm getting free ice cream, I'm getting all this stuff or whatever because she's just being treated like a human because she had to change who she was to do that. And the scene is just her just doing a regular day. She goes to get ice cream, she sits on the bench, she reads the paper, and she's never harassed. And so it was like I felt this pain of like this woman should never have to like feel like that about. You should feel like you have to change who you are to be able just to experience just simple peace. That's it. Yeah. And it reminded me, I think it triggered me so hard because it was like, that's how I've told you guys a lot about this, but like when I went to Australia, that's how I felt. Like it was the first time in my life when I had left the country, spent like a long time out of the country where I just walked around and I didn't feel anything other than just a regular, normal person. Right. And it's so crazy. It's hard to explain what that feeling is like. So that scene to me was like really, really heavy for me. I was just like, I found myself like starting to get emotional and I'm just like, this doesn't make, I was like, what is going on? Like this doesn't make any sense, but.
I was mad. I was like, oh no, you're not. You are not going to drink this wine. You are not going to do that.
Right.
And enjoy this crap.
Right. So that was, again, powerful, right? I thought that was a really powerful scene, the way they shot it, the way it was. And
the way she explained it to William.
Yeah.
After the first time. And how she said, I was treated with care. And the wording was poetic. I can't remember the sentence, but the wording was very poetic.
And then, oh man, I should have had it and I lost it. When she was saying it and then William finished her sentence, basically it's like you were treated like a human being, right? Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? And it was the way that he delivered that line, how like simple and just like, you know, like matter of fact, like, yeah, because you should, you know, you should be type of thing. So, and of course, obviously, I think it hits who is like, all right, I'm just blowing up here. I'm like, people, do you not know I'm streaming live right now? Like, you know, obviously in the context of where we are right now in society, the fact that this is supposed to be something that's happened in the 1950s, and you would think, you know, now in this day and age, we'd be so much, you know, we'd be better, we'd be so much past that, and we're not. So again, just kudos to the writers and the storytellers for how they're putting that together and bringing in like some of these just kind of real powerful messages that even today, like we still are dealing with and talking about. So, so from that, so you know that's the first, you know, what 5 or 7 minutes of the episode. So I'm just like,
seriously,
okay, I'm in. Like, okay, y'all done tugged at my heartstrings. Y'all done got me triggered. Like, we got people changing. What is going on? So we move from that. We get into the transformations. So the other part that I thought was kind of heavy that I want to talk about was Ruby and I can't remember the young lady's name, but the young black lady that was hired.
Tamara.
Tamara.
Yeah.
Hold on, one thing from the listeners. Devonta said she liked the scene where Ruby explained why she did need the money that William left. Yep. I thought that was a nice, powerful statement for her to make, and just kind of like I'm gonna. She's throwing me off track a little bit. We'll get back to it. I love Ruby's character. Like I love everything about Ruby and the stances that she takes. The very well, like she shows her vulnerabilities, she shows her strengths, like all together. So like, I love how they're building this character. I love that she got so much screen time in this one. That they're building her into like as a main character. And I feel like they are setting something up. They are building to this Letty Ruby showdown, because I think Christina's going to try and turn Ruby to her side, and it's not going to be that hard, right? I think Ruby's kind of already just
done.
I tolerate you because we're siblings, but no. So yeah, I'm very interested to watch that. But yeah, I love this character and her story through this. But when she goes to Marshall's, and sorry, Jimmy, would you say the lady's name was it Claire? Tamara. What did I get Claire from? Tamara. And so the part where she's asking her about like, oh, so you must have went and took these classes. I didn't even know they did that. Oh, well, you must have done this. And what?
You only made it to 7th grade?
Yeah. And that was one of those moments where I'm thinking that white actress playing Ruby she did her homework.
She did. Because she's like, you can see her clearly trying to keep her composure, but at the same time, like, you didn't even, how did you get like,
yeah.
How do I stop from snatching you? But at the same time.
But you know what I also love about that scene is like, again, with Ruby's character, she is being honest and she's being real. It's like, listen, I'm black, you don't know it, but I'm mad because of how you came up in here. I'm going to be mad at you, and I'm going to tell you I'm mad at you for a minute. But I got your back, you know, like when it's really all said and done.
Well, and so I had a friend who mentioned a white friend who mentioned he had watched the show, and he was like, so I was really kind of disappointed at how ugly Ruby was to Tamara. I thought she would have been nicer and more supportive to her. And I responded to him, and I was like, well, see, here's the thing. You've got a lot of stuff going on. Ruby she is more than qualified to do the job that she actually got hired to do because she was white. And she's realizing that Tamara, because she's very slim and, pretty.
Jeremy did bring that in. What if there's some of the body image stuff?
So there's that going on, right? Like, she's realizing the only reason why she got hired is because they needed a black girl and she's skinny. Which is not a knock on Ruby. She is gorgeous.
Just saying that's how society plays out.
Yeah. But I think that's a key, because I think it's also, so I'm going to take it a step further. Like, I think that the body shaming was part in there. I was going to talk about that topic a little later as well. But I think also that, again, how Ruby presents herself, right? Ruby's very sure of herself, right? So you have this, and she seems tall to me, like when she's with the other characters. So you have this, she's larger, she's taller, she's sure of herself. So she's going to come across, and we, as black people, we get this a lot. It's very imposing. So it's like, if we're going to, so you got to remember, so 1950s, and turns out that Tamara was their first, she broke their color lines, right? You're going to go after the quote unquote docile, kind of, okay, we'll just kind of let you in, versus Ruby, who's, yes, she's more than qualified. She's going to let you know that she's qualified, and she's going to do her best and do everything that you would in a non-biased society. You would like, this is what I want. But in this case, it kind of goes against her. And so I saw a lot of that in there as well, right? Like Ruby, and to me, it goes back to Ruby and Letty, like this whole thing of like, Ruby is very much, out there and has all the qualifications to do everything, but she constantly still gets flipped over or pushed to the side.
Yeah.
Right.
And she's very much in the mind space of that, I feel weird making points like this being a white man. And I'm making Erica squirm because
you just won't talk.
But she is very much in the headspace that some black people find themselves in, that if we can just be perfect, white people will finally have to see us as equal. And she has that whole chat with Tamara in this white body of, you got to be better than them, you got to be perfect, you got to be so good that they can't deny you. And like that, I've been thinking a lot about that with conversations that people are having about, it's not, when people say, oh, well, they deserve a place at the table. and black people are like, man, get rid of the whole freaking table.
Right.
Because if you're saying that I've earned a place at the table, you're still telling me that it's your opportunity to give me.
Right.
And so that just kind of, I don't know, listening to reading.
That, do there.
Yeah, and just some of the reading and stuff that I've done with the different ideas of the civil rights movement and what led to the Black Power movement and all of those things, that is one of those prevalent attitudes of we just have to be flawless.
Right.
And that still makes black people have to be something other than human. You can't be human.
Yeah. Do we know the exact year that this is taking place? And I know like somewhere around the 1950s. Because
354, I believe.
Okay. Because they mentioned Martin Luther King in
the up and coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a passing conversation.
Yeah. It was episode 3.
It's when she threw the party after
the
haunted house one or the whole house one.
With the Emmett Till appearance and all. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's 53 and 54.
Yeah, because Emmett Till. Okay. So so it's gonna be interesting to see. And for the most part they've got enough like that they're covering in this show. So I'm amazed that they haven't tied, that kind of into it, but which I think is good because this allows them to kind of tell this story, outside of all that. So let's talk about this guy that owns the lodge that Christina is trying to, get out of the way. So I knew immediately that Christina was trying to find some way to, get this guy gone. But then
you talking about the cop?
Yeah.
The cop. Like, and I didn't get his name, but I guess he's running with supposed to, this is a lodge, even though he's not in the order.
Yeah.
Right. But he's kind of like taking his places. This is what I'm going to do. Yeah. So this whole scene where she goes to his office with the dude in the closet with his tongue cut out, but then the guy's chest, like when he's changing his shirt, like he's Frankenstein. Like he's been experimented on. He's got different torso parts. Like, so I immediately made the connection.
The guy in the closet?
No, not the guy in the closet.
You talking about?
No. William,
the cop. Sorry,
his chest was all marked up too. Yeah, but
okay.
I didn't clue in on that either.
So if you go back when he's changing shirts, like I think it's a far shot, but he goes to open his shirt, like his chest is discolored because it's different skin. Like it's like he's been patched together, and so that immediately
he worked with Epstein.
Right. He worked with Epstein, so there's some kind of crazy connection there, and we have no explanation of with this dude in the closet, what he did and why they cut out his tongue. And it was one of those, I felt like it was one of those scenes. It's like, here, we're going to drop this on you and we'll explain everything later, but here you go.
Yeah. That is definitely, that scene marked when I think I started realizing, okay, Christina is William because that's supposed to be his spot. He's supposed to be running that. It's his birthright. Right. That's when all of that started to come together. But
okay. Wow. Another scene that I need to go back and rewatch because I was trying to put it in there, and I think Jeremy, you spoke to it in the beginning. We were talking about Montreux. So when he goes to I guess it was like the club and they do like the drag show. Yeah. His whole scene there. Right. And in the beginning, he's very just kind of unsure, hanging out. And he ends up dancing, kissing his lover, boyfriend, whatever he is. Right. Yeah. Which I thought was interesting that you could already tell before then that hadn't been something that they did. Yeah. Right. It was like the final, maybe to Montrose, it was like, I don't know, like the final line that he wouldn't cross or something or whatever. I think Jeremy, to your point where he was.
Yeah, and that's what the group was even saying. Like, you're not really, you guys haven't sealed it with the kiss yet, and he won't. Yeah.
So it was one of those scenes where I feel like I was like, they're showing us something, and I felt like I didn't quite pick up on it the first time around, so I want to go back and watch it. But I felt like that was very much a symbolic scene.
Well, that's what I was saying in the beginning about this. I don't feel like it was anything else except for we are getting a moment to really be in his mind and in his confusion, and if he's going to take this step, is he finally ready to? And I was scared in the beginning because a lot of times, well, I won't say a lot of times, but sometimes, like Jeremy was saying, when you have the self-hate, when you're trying to decide maybe if you're going to come out, if you're going to be your whole self, then I was worried that he was going to like beat his lover. And I was worried, but it was nice that it just was this, we got to just see him let go. We got to see him be himself and just have that moment. And I'm glad they didn't take it and make it something else. I'm glad it was a happy moment. It felt like.
Yeah, because I've been worried about that with, with the last episode with Tree. Tree is obviously misogynistic. He's obviously homophobic. Tick is has a little more homophobia than maybe you were hoping to. Maybe wanted to be more understanding of his dad, have them make some kind of connection, and then with him slitting, I forget their name at the end, the spirit's throat at the end, like that whole thing. Just afraid. What storyline are we really going down at this part? And yeah, like Erica said, it felt like there were a couple of points where he was just about to erupt and beat up Sammy, or just take all of his anger and frustration out on his community, and he didn't. And it was like, oh, okay, breathe easier now because.
He didn't, but I feel like Tick did, right? So
Tick beat the mess out of him.
Like that was like,
yeah.
I don't know. It felt like, okay, yes, this was coming, but at the same time, like how fast he snapped. Like it was just like, hey, Dad, like Pop, like what's up? And the next thing you know, he's just like.
But I wonder, part of me thought, well, is that the effect that this whole quest is having on him? Kind of like as you get through the Lord of the Rings story, and the weight of the ring is making Frodo into a completely different person, changing his attitude and stuff. Is Letty onto something, that this chasing after this power for Tick is fundamentally changing him in some kind of way? Is this his metamorphosis into a darker, more violent character?
Or is it exactly what Tick said?
Which it
I imagined doing this every time he beat me.
Yeah.
And just think about how the show started. We have monsters, and then we have our life monsters. And sometimes it may not be any deeper than that. And so it could be both. It could, but I love how they're really good about having something happen and then letting the character say, this is what this was for me. Like, I'm not going to leave you hanging.
Yeah. I thought it was. So I think it's, so when I look at that part, right, I connect that to Letty asking Uncle George back in previous episodes about Tick and him maybe being shell shocked. Like, did something happen to the war? I think about his dream hallucination, whatever it was in that room, and how his was the only one that was violent, right? It was like he was fighting something, against himself.
Letty's was violent too.
Dude, like
the serpent.
I would say Letty's was suspenseful. Like, Tick started with him getting shot. Like, it was click, click, shots coming out of the wardrobe, and then he's fighting for his life, and he ends it like choking, like the life out of the person. So, like, I feel like they've been setting up this kind of ball of violence within Tick for a while, and how they're trying to paint it is, this conflict between, is it, what he had from the war? Is this just, who he is from, his own life demons and dealing with his dad? Is it, the quest, the book, that whatever, trying to read this language, getting to him, because I thought it was interesting when the two scenes with him and Letty. One when he was like, hey, I don't want you to be afraid of me, right? Where and it was very much a like, as I was watching this, I was like, no, like I really don't want you guys to have like this horribly toxic relationship. Like, no, I beat that person, but I would never beat you. Like, hold on, bro. Like, because I don't know, did you guys notice that when he went down to the basement looking for the pictures, and she came down, she had a bat?
She had that. We have got to address that, because he's standing there and he's like bucked up to her, and then all of a sudden you just see him glance down, and he turns and walks away, and then and she's got the bat. It's like, oh,
and you know what I said? Can I be Letty for Halloween? I was Michonne one year, so I'm like, yo.
Yeah.
Hey,
I think it's a must.
Well, I did paint my nails red because of it.
Very nice.
Yes.
Very
yes.
nice.
I really, when she's in the bathtub and they're having that conversation, I was like, man, they're good actors.
Yeah.
Like, it was good.
They are the acting in this entire series has been, excellent. I think again, this episode, every single actor, like, if they had a level, I don't know if it was they went to the next one. And I think, from, again, like I said, from the storytelling, the way they did the shots, and I would love, not knowing much about how media is done, not taking anything from the actors, but this one this is a show where I was like, I can give credit to a director, because you pulled everything out of this. Like, you had a vision of a story that you wanted to tell, and you got the actors to perform at their best. You did this was a really, really good episode, because each of these scenes where it needed to be delivered a certain way, like, all of them pulled it off. Like, I believe every single one of these characters. There's not a single scene in here where I was just kind of like, all right, okay, wait, I'll take that back. Ruby's coworkers, the white women coworkers in the back, I didn't believe them. I was like, okay, whatever. But they were extras, so I was like, it's cool. But everybody else, like, I'm like, yo, like.
Wait, but here's the thing. What didn't you believe about them? Why weren't they believable for you?
Something about that scene and the way they were talking, how do I explain it? It was just like, yeah, okay. Like, I felt like the tall blonde that was like, oh, we want to go here, we want to go dancing. I felt like she was overselling it. Like, and I know this is totally me looking too much into it, but I'm like, okay, look, this is probably like her second or third day working. Y'all all in the back, and I get that they're just like, hey, we're all together, we're all white women, let's do this thing or whatever. But I just felt like they just very quickly went to, oh, well, yeah, we can go down here, and we should, get Timber to take us to the south side and do all this stuff or whatever. I was just kind of like,
they called it going on safari.
Yeah,
that's white. That's 1950s white women wanting to walk on the wild side.
Here's the thing.
Like,
it felt really believable to this Black woman who has spent a lot of time with.
Okay.
Like, that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying, yeah, they probably went a little bit further with it for like but I remember feeling like in that scene, those words were not used, but there have been plenty of times where I've come home from something and told Jeremy, we are not an exhibit at the zoo. Yeah. So
Gosh. I did get that whole thing of it, like this whole like, oh, we got to go down there because it's, it's forbidden. It's this thing. And I was just kind of like, all right, whatever. And then when they go down there, again, the tall blonde, I don't remember what her name was, like seeing her like eyeing the other guys over there, whatever, like I'm just like, okay, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
And so of course we have to get to the scene that I don't think anybody will ever forget a day in their life.
Ruby is a stiletto heel sniper. Is that the scene that you're talking about?
Like, I don't even know. Everything about this scene was like, I I love like how it unfolded, how it like the whole crescendo of it, right? So it starts out and I'm going to quit him having this conversation, and then it goes to because she wants to sleep with him, and it's just like just escalating and escalating, and I am just like I did not see it ending that way at all.
Oh, I did.
I mean, I knew she.
As
Let me
soon
tell you
as
when
she
I
makes
saw
him
it.
lick the heel.
No, I saw it coming the scene before that.
Yeah.
When she transformed in the alley, she looks through and she sees him, and I'm like, she gon' I said, check how much time we got left. We have 14 minutes left. I said, she gonna get him. I don't know how, but she gonna get him.
But that's the thing. Like, not saying that you didn't see the attack coming, but I don't think any of us.
Oh no, I mean,
up to that.
I thought
my favorite part of that whole shindig though was Christina and the pep talk she gave her. That made her go do it.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah. Again, placement of the audio of Bodak Yellow playing as she walks out. The bloody flesh falling near her shoes as she walks out. I was just like,
just steps on him on the way out. Yeah,
I was dancing. I was like, I shouldn't really be this happy about this. This is not nice.
But and then I seriously thought, I'm like, what? So when somebody finds him, like, what does he say? Like,
I know,
right? I mean, I'm just like,
don't let him see your face. Don't let him see your real face. What you gonna say? This bloody black lady
who was a white lady. Like,
yeah,
yeah, very much. Very much an episode or a scene that I remember for a long time. It was,
but Dave, she gets him to lick the heel first, and then like I'm just saying, like, the little things that happened that all like led up to that moment. Just like, oh my god, yeah, it was rough.
I thought she was just going to. So I thought she was just going to expose him, right? So I thought she was going to somehow like take him through a door, and like everybody was going to be there, and it was going to be like blah blah blah, whatever. It went left like really, really quickly. So I want to get to the ending and Tick's little, not Tick, but his whatever he finds. And I went back and watched it and tried to pause it to try and see if there was anything else that I could see, but. Although then he figures out that, some letters spelled die, and then he calls again this woman back in Korea.
Yeah.
And
asked her how she knew. Right.
Right.
What he basically says.
All right, so we've got some gaps that we don't know yet.
Right. And so immediately in my mind, I start tying to, so I go back to the opening scene because the alien princess that comes down is the same actress that is in his vision that comes after him, who is this woman that he's calling back or whatever. So somehow she's connected to all this. And their first conversation was, she told him you shouldn't have gone home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the first conversation we ever, you shouldn't have gone home. Tick lets us know in the bathroom scene with Letty that there was something there that was special, and then it just kind of ended. He said, and then he said kind of like in a weird way, I believe. And then we have this thing like, how did you know? And then he asked, "What are you?"
Mm-hmm.
And then ends, and then we see die that he's figured out on this little hieroglyphs or whatever. So I don't even know at this point.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to put it together. Somehow I think she is maybe like another faction or another order.
Yeah, I feel like there's something. She's going to be the thread that's in every episode till we get to the end, I feel like.
And apparently, according to the previews for next week, it's going to be almost her whole backstory.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely get some answers, I feel like.
Yeah. And again, like I said before, what I love is they don't leave threads hanging out there too long. So I feel like they will turn around and give us a whole lot to add into there. So we are halfway through, right? There's only 5 episodes left. I feel like we have gone through like a season and a half.
Yeah.
Um, what are I rave about this show all the time. Obviously, I love it. I think I just the science fiction, the storytelling, everything about it. But halfway in, what are you guys' thoughts on the episode? Like, or just on the series in general?
I feel seen in this show. And it's weird because
Okay.
sci-fi is really usually not my thing. But there are all the moments where they connected to the struggle of blackness. There are moments where I'm just like, and then there are moments where I go, dang, like they nailed that. Like Ruby,
Right.
white body, and just all of those, the feeling of craziness. Like I just feel like every episode there's that moment where you go, thank you for
Right.
putting it the way you put it. Maybe that's whoever else is watching this that's white or not, not black necessarily, I feel seen. I feel like if you would like to learn something and I'm tired of explaining it, go watch this series.
Right.
I like how they're putting that in there. That's what I like.
I love that, like Erica said, science fiction has not been her thing. And I love that it's been my thing because I've always been represented in sci-fi. It wasn't until college that I realized that the vast majority of science fiction and fantasy worlds are completely without black and brown people.
Right.
And it wasn't until I discovered Octavia Butler that I even realized that, wow, she's the one black sci-fi writer in existence, apparently. And since then, it's starting to blow up. And I'll never forget sitting in the theater on the premiere night of Black Panther with Erica and her turning to me during one of the battle scenes and saying, I get it now. I know why you like movies like this. I've never seen people like me in a movie like this. And I feel the same way about happening with this series that, yeah, we watch Stranger Things and she's loved that because she loves kids. But this is the first real like sci-fi.
Well, just representation matters.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
It's the way I felt about Hamilton. Let Dave talk to though,
Yeah.
but it's the way I felt about Hamilton. I feel like
Watchmen.
things in Watchmen, things are being unlocked, and it's just unfortunate because I'm typically someone who will just listen to whatever and watch whatever, but things are being unlocked, and it's pretty cool to get the other stuff too. So
Yeah. I'm a big fan of storytelling, right? I always have been. I think that's one of the things that I love about, movies and series is that if it's a good story, I'll watch it or I'll read it, and what I'm seeing in this is very intricate storytelling, very intricate directing. I don't know what you call it, but like I don't know if it's also considered makeup, but like all the stuff that they're doing with like the monsters and the aliens and skin falling, like the effect. There you go. The effects are just very, and so it's making me even a bigger fan of Misha Green. I want to know more about how much of this she's written, and I'd love to see more. I can tell from watching these, right, that she's an excellent storyteller. Her ability to say, I want to take a scene and take things that I have no connection to, whatever, but I'm going to walk you through it and develop it in such a way to where you feel like these characters are real. So I love that. And obviously, to your point, the representation I think is absolutely great because it just, to me, it starts to feel, you see a more representation of normal. It's like, this is like, stories have everybody in it, so you should see all kinds of people that look like you. So I'm also very interested to see them, and it looks like in the previews that the scenes are going to be like, I guess when he's in, I keep saying Korea, I don't, but that was the Korean War, right? So seeing now shows that are well done, and you just see this nice representation of everybody, we can start to, I think, as a society look at things and say, yeah, that's normal. Right. And so I don't know, that just, feels good to me, and it's look, I love to see black leads and all of the stuff that's going on. So I love it. And HBO, man, I just got to give it to them. They're killing it. And they got Issa Rae. They got this with Misha Green. There's a are they doing Meek Mill, and Meek Mill's in it? I think it's like a story based on Baltimore. I think that's coming on HBO as well, or it might be on HBO Max. So it's very interesting their investment into black storytellers, and I will give them credit that this was done, and these was all in the works before this, right? So I'm very much I'm very much critical of anybody that's coming out saying that they're for the culture now when it feels comfortable to say so, versus the people who have been putting in the work and doing it before. So I will give HBO that credit. And we got,
and you think about Watchmen, and even Westworld, has multiple very crucial black leads within this broader sci-fi story.
So they've been on it.
Yeah. I think it's good.
Yeah. I just didn't like Westworld. I mean, I like, anyway, well, this is a different story. So for mom that she loves sci-fi, I'm impressed with the history that is brought into the story. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of, there's been a lot of historical context in all of these. And I love that it's subtle, that it's there so you can see it, not so over the top that it takes away from the story, but it's enough to say that, oh yeah, we're going to talk about this and put it in your face as well, because this was a part of the times. And oh, by the way, isn't it funny how something that was supposed to be 60 years ago is still happening today, but we'll just keep it. Like, it's I'm gonna say it like this. It's just how we would do something. It is so how we would put shade into somebody's face. We would just be talking and slide it right in there and just keep on going. And that's what they do in every episode. It's like, oh yeah, there you go. Anyway, as we're going to keep on moving. So
that's kind of, to Rhonda's point, that's kind of the thing about sci-fi and fantasy period, is these writers, they create these worlds and deal with really complex and controversial topics in these make-believe worlds that are sometimes, they don't reach an audience if you set it in this world because, oh, you're playing the race card or whatever. Yeah. My sister-in-law, Erica's sister, April, she sent me a thing the other day. She's like, did you know this? And it was a video of a guy talking about X-Men. And I was like, oh yeah, I know all about X-Men, that it's about civil rights. You've got the mutants, and I'm bringing it together. Sorry. It's about the mutants and their rights. They're not treated equally with anybody else. But in the video, the guy's like, he talks about Magneto and Professor X, and basically links Magneto to Malcolm X and Professor X to MLK. And I'm like, oh, so I hadn't made that connection before.
Yeah.
And just kind of
that there's other
that's what sci-fi authors have been able to do, even with a spotty history of dealing with people of different races in their works. They have always tried to deal with complex and complicated social situations. But
this is different. This is more in your face, and I am enjoying it.
Yeah, we'll put together something and probably do that like as a bonus episode. But there's a sci-fi history there in comics and things that have been done, and a lot of times it's and you see this a little bit in how they're trying to present this in Lovecraft Country. Like, at the end of the day, people are a product of their environment and the times that they're in, right? So in the very beginning episode, when Tick was telling that lady about the story that he was reading, and her whole thing was like, he was a Confederate. You don't get to put X in front of that, right? So that whole thing, and as Tick's trying to explain, like, oh, well, this whole line of, people are like stories and you got to love them for everything they are, blah, blah, blah. To me, that was whole like, look, yes, I get that, but here was a guy in a product of his times faced with something and trying to do something different. And so you see a lot of that in a bunch of sci-fi, but we can dig into that because there's a lot there. So with that, I think we'll wrap it up. 5 episodes left, new episodes on Sundays. Hopefully we don't get any more surprise early episodes. Next time we will talk about it, and I'll do a little bit of research about it. But this whole like virtual reality this VR world that they've launched with Lovecraft Country. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Like, it literally legit had me thinking about buying an Oculus just to do this, but I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna be that guy. I'm not gonna be that guy. Put it down. Put Amazon down, Dave.
Yeah, we'll see two episodes later. We'll see.
Like, look, but I'm telling y'all in the VR stuff.
Yeah, like, we're gonna get a text from you.
But definitely want to bring that up. So thanks everybody for joining. Thank you, Rhonda, for the questions and interaction. For everybody that's watching this later, tune in every week. We'll be doing a Lovecraft Country recap show until the episode ends. Of course, obviously brought to you by the On the Corner Network. My name is David. These are my lovely guest hosts, Erica and Jeremy. I'll let you figure out which one is which. And we will see you all next week.
Bye-bye.